Hey everyone, welcome back with Beano Mac, where today, of course, as usual, every Saturday, we're going to continue our playthrough of ECW House Party Mixtape, created by GM Spectre, very talented, kiss his ass every week. And obviously, it was originally made, this game was originally WWF WrestleMania 2000. It was made by the Aki Corporation for the Nintendo 64. This is a ROM hack of that, where he makes us an ECW All-Stars mod, ECW All-Stars mod, same thing. But, we're going to continue our playthrough of the Extreme Road Tour. We're in February, we're almost there, we're in the home stretch, almost. We got this month here, and we're going to, of course, take on Jerry Lynn. Usual ECW rules that I set here, no DQ, falls count anywhere, that whole ordeal for this match in particular. And of course, we updated our outfit as usual as well. Very similar to his base design, but just teeny little bit difference in the colors there. I'm running out of color combinations here, guys. It is what it is, though. Usually what happens. I think in my No Mercy playthrough, when I was playing as the Hollies, I ran out of color combinations for them, and I think there was just one point where I was putting Hardcore Holly in like jeans and cowboy boots. So it is what it is. And just because I forget every single episode, I'm just going to go over the matches here. So the match after this is going to be yet another no DQ, no rope break match. And then our third match is going to be a tornado tag. Once again, falls count anywhere, no rope break. Then our last one's going to be a last man standing match. You'll figure I'd throw in one of those special novelty matches in there for you, which pretty much amounts to it's just TKO only is on. But something that I was really excited for, I don't feel like anybody is talking about it. And maybe it's just something that's like there but it doesn't work yet, but I've always mentioned about how I never understood why Aki never had like a last man standing match, and they had, at least in No Mercy, because they could have just poured the leftover stuff from the boxing, shoot fighting match from Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, and they had the whole thing where you get knocked down and then there's the 10 seconds of getting back up. They could have made that a last man standing match in No Mercy, and it was late in the year, so that's probably why, but they did have a last man standing match in 2000. It was Jericho and X-Pac. Amazingly, I think it was actually X-Pac who won that match. And in his newest work, Retro Randy Price, ECW Born to Be Wired, which is going to be another fantastic ECW ROM hack at some point, but that's probably not going to get released for until another year or two or something like that, because it's just in the beta forms. But there was an option, I think, under the TKO section that says 10 seconds. So I'm going to assume maybe that's the case. Maybe that is something that's going to be, included in the ECW ROM hack by Retro Randy Price. And I'm not sure. I kind of hope so, because obviously it was just the open beta is as far as we've gotten with No Mercy Plus. So I'm hoping that, it'd be really cool at some point if, he did add the last man standing thing to the No Mercy Plus, if that is what it is. Like I said, I haven't really seen anybody check it out. I'm sure there's got to be video of it out there somewhere, but most people are just kind of fascinated by the barbed wire ropes and stuff like that, and the blood could be anywhere on the body and stuff like that, which is admittedly cool. Oh boy, I'm sorry about that, Bill Alfonso. That didn't work in the way I wanted to. At least I hit somebody though, but yeah, I mean, everybody's really enamored with the barbed wire rope match and stuff like that, and it is really awesome. But I am just curious as to what that 10 count stipulation is, which, I mean, I can't really think of it, what else it would be. I think they also have a 5 count pin option now that they're going to experiment with as well. I don't know why I say there, it's one guy, I believe, but Retro Randy Price. But we also have RagDas, who is, I'm in the middle of reviewing his other projects. He is the creator of Virtual Pro Wrestling Salvo. It's definitely his most popular project, in which he added some WWF wrestlers to Revenge, along with canceled ones like Fake Sting and Ric Flair Wrath, and then there's like some extras, you know, Japanese wrestlers, you know, their slots are properly over the fictional wrestlers, as well as some extra ones in there for costumes too. And that was his most popular one for Revenge. He also created Revengey first, which I believe was meant to be just a Korean translation of the game for the most part, but I could be wrong. And there we go, we got rid of Jerry Wynn, so we're already off to a good start here this time. We dragged Bill Alfonso all the way up there with us too. And then RagDas has also created, you know, Le Fin du Tour, which is probably my personal favorite. And it's, I guess it was never meant to be, but he just kind of put the characters in there for the hell of it. But it's essentially, I get he says no, it's not what it is, but it's what I'm taking it as. It's a WWF versus a WCW ROM hack, essentially. You know, obviously there's much more to it than that, and that's probably why he hates it when people refer to, you know, his Le Fin du Tour, you know, ROM hack as just WCW versus WWF. But that's kind of like the main draw, is that, you know, you have the WCW guys with some extra costumes like Sting, and Ultimo Dragon has his WCW versus the World outfit, and then instead of the NWO, he replaced a lot of those guys with, you know, Razor Ramon there's a Razor Ramon costume, a Diesel costume, and a 123 Kid costume for, you know, the guys who were included in that, Six, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. And then Stone Cold was put in, and Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Undertaker. And then he put in, I think it's Rickson Gracie, or Ricky Grayson, or something like that. I'm not really familiar with MMA, but he put him in there, you know, just as like a proof of concept for the MMA fighter, as well as that body type. I guess he has a very unique body type, that character. I think it's like 201 wins or something like that is his name. As well as, you know, Dr. Death is in there and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. And then, you know, he had, I feel like one that's not really talked about often is Virtual Pro Wrestling Summit. And that's actually something I'm going to cover next month. But, you know, that's like WWF WrestleMania 2000 as well. But, like, it just kind of replaces a very limited number of, like, wrestlers in the base game. You know, like Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Bret Hart, and Scott Hall, I think, are the WCW guys he chose. And then he put some Japanese wrestlers like Hayabusa, or I think he's just H in that game. Then there's Atsushi Onita, Mitsuharu Misawa, guys like that. Aki-Man's in there too. And he added a lot of features from both Revenge and Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 that I believe were in the code and just unfinished in WrestleMania 2000. I believe that's his intention, because I think his intention with a lot of these ROM hacks, RagDas in particular, is that he wants to show off how far that these, you know, games have come as far as hacking goes. And I think that that's what his work is mainly meant to be shown off. It's not like, you know, really cool, you know, roster overhauls like, you know, Geno Spector does with WrestleMania 2000, or Project Outsider and stuff like that, for example. And I think that's kind of why I think RagDas gets a little underappreciated from fans in that sense. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think his ROM hacks are great, and I'm definitely going to be playing those on the channel at some point too. But the whole reason I even brought him up was because he's actually in the middle of creating a new ROM hack. And I've been pretty much advertising it whenever I can on my channel, and you know, this episode's no different. But like, it's WCW versus NWO World Tour, another ROM hack in that series. And I believe that it is called something along the lines of here, I'll actually pull it up here in a second, because I don't want to get this wrong. But it is actually WCW versus NWO 9 Underground. And he has, you know, showed the updated intro he's added, which is pretty awesome. I think it's pretty cool. And, you know, as well as the roster reveal and a quick match type. And, you know, the big thing with this one is, and once again, this whole point, if you read his description, is he wanted to show where we are with ROM hacking in WCW versus NWO World Tour. And to show that off, he wanted to show that he was able to add in 9 completely unique characters. He didn't have to remove anybody, but he essentially was able to, I think he put it, resurrect characters that were meant to be in the base game of WCW versus NWO World Tour, but they were cut, you know, for whatever reason. I don't think it was space issues. I think it was just THQ didn't want that many likenesses and wrestlers, because I think it was just, you know, copyright, and they were just worried about that kind of stuff. WCW versus NWO World Tour used to be so awesome to me, and then I seen how much more characters we had and more features we got in Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, released in Japan exclusively, and I mean, that game was just so much better than World Tour. But obviously, if it's a ROM hack, I have no issues playing, you know, World Tour ROM hack. And I believe the reason why is because I've heard that World Tour and Revenge are much different than WrestleMania 2000 and WWF No Mercy. I guess they're a lot harder to hack, World Tour especially. You know, RagDas himself has even said that, like, you know, he didn't add the Stone Cold Stunner in his Le Fin du Tour, you know, ROM hack, because of the issues with like if you add a move in, it's not just, you have to like add in the unique sound effects, and it's just a really long, drawn out process. So, you know, it definitely sounds like things are a lot more annoying to have to deal with. You know, I don't know any of this from experience. I'm not a ROM hacker. I just play these games, so, you know, I can't really. I'm only explaining to you guys the things that I've heard from watching, you know, various videos from you know, the people that I play these ROM hacks for. And RagDas, he seems to specialize in, you know, the Revenge and you know, World Tour games, and it's too bad, because I would love to see what other people can do with those games as far as, like, you know, roster overhauls and stuff too, because one thing I would love to see, you know, I think would make World Tour really great would be if someone replaced the you know, the Japanese wrestlers in that game with, you know, more WCW wrestlers at that time. So, you know, like Harlem Heat were big names that I feel like we're missing from World Tour. Chris Jericho, I think, was just getting started at that time, so I think that's why he was excluded from the game. But so many guys, I think, that was just, you know, could have been in WCW versus NWO World Tour. And, you know, you could even look at the WCW Nitro roster, and, you know, you could see, like, there could have been the Public Enemy, and, like I said, Harlem Heat, and, you know, a few other guys. I just think there could be more guys added. Disco Inferno was one of them that would, you know, he was kind of somewhat of a big deal in you know, 1997 and stuff like that too. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like there was a lot more characters that we could have added. You know, if somebody just replaced the roster with those characters and make it more of a just plain WCW game or something like that, I think that'd be pretty awesome. There's another one in the book, folks. RVD is coming back after that disastrous run last month. I am honestly still pissed off that I lost to the Tasmaniac. Ugh. And to continue with RagDas, he also just has like a lot of stuff on his channel of just like him messing around with the game and really cool footage there. He even put like Revenge textures in World Tour just to show off, like, hey, this is possible, you know, just showing people can do it. And it's weird looking, but it's actually really cool at the same time. But he just has a bunch of different videos showing that stuff off. And I'm pretty much a huge fan of anybody that releases these ROM hacks or edits these games and stuff like that. You guys should definitely check out, you know, like I mentioned, WCW versus NWO 9 Underground. You know, his trailer for that, as well as his, you know, just other videos to see like other things that he's messed around with. It's just cool fun, you know. They does like a match for 10 minutes. He even made like RVD and World Tour and stuff like that, and it looks pretty cool. It's really cool that he is coming back, though, because I believe he said, at least this is just a rumor of what I heard, that he was actually done with ROM hacking in general. So for RagDas to come back after Virtual Pro Wrestling Salvo was just really cool, because I really am a big fan of his work. I should also mention, though, that it's not RagDas on YouTube. It's actually TASM Daily, TASM Daily, and it's TASM, and it's all in caps, Daily, if you want to find his channel on YouTube. So yeah, just check out his channel, you know, support his new project, you know, by leaving a like, you know, some support and stuff like that. You know, he seems like a pretty awesome dude, all things considered. Actually, what am I saying? I'll just actually leave you guys a link in the description below if you're interested in stuff. I honestly like this design a lot better than what he would wear in WCW. I don't know what it is, it just sticks out to me more, the mask in particular. Although I was never a big Juvi fan. Honestly, my favorite thing with Juventud Guerrero is just the time where Chris Jericho was in WWF with Curtis Hughes, and The Rock just said something along the lines of, "You think you impressed The Rock because you beat some jabroni named Juventud?" That's one of my favorite lines. And then I think it was after that promo, Juventud just started calling himself the Juice or something like that on screen because he got referenced by The Rock. And if that's true, like, I haven't watched WCW, if that's true, that's kind of like one of the lamest things you can do. Like, you acknowledge the competition, you're like, oh, I see this guy acknowledged me, so, you know, I'm just as good, and yada yada. It's, I don't know, it just kind of seems a little low class if you ask me. Like, you're kind of like making yourself feel less than him, but maybe I'm just the only one looking at that. And this is one of the mechanics I really dislike about WrestleMania 2000. It can't be helped, but it is somewhat realistic. But, you know, after a while, like, if teams lose certain matches, and it's cool that you can have it happen to you. Like, I think if you lose, like, 3 matches, usually on average, sometimes it takes more, sometimes it takes less. I don't know. It just seems like there's probably, like, some relationship value in the game that we don't see. But, you know, after a while, if teams keep losing, they break up. And, I don't know. It's cool for, like, WWE Universe and stuff like that, but, like, it's really lame to see, like, the Public Enemy. They're supposed to be, of course, you know, a team, right? Like, they just don't look right if they're not in a tag team, and they look weird if they're tagging with someone else. So, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, that's something that bothers me about this game, and you'll notice that a lot with the lower card teams and stuff like that in WrestleMania 2000. Like, suddenly you'll see, instead of Too Much teaming together, you'll see freaking Scotty Too Hottie teaming with, you know, Headbanger Mosh or something like that, and it reminds me of freaking, like, 2000s era WWF, WWE and stuff like that, where, like, they were just tossing the most random combinations of teams together and making them, like, tag teams and having them win the belts and stuff like that for no reason. Well, in the process of, like, breaking up their established teams. Oh man, I thought I actually had that one right there. Oh man, I was gonna try and run up and blast him. Alright, should we go for the frog splash? I don't know, because it's a tag team match, but we're gonna take his finisher here. We got the perfect setup, so we got to do it now. Oh, no, no, no. Sabu, come on, block him, block him, block him. Oh, thank God. He's an idiot. No wonder his partner broke up with him. All right. Yeah, so we are definitely, it's the comeback tour here, folks. February, I guess, is my month. Although these guys were kind of lower card guys, so I think that's why this one went a lot smoother. Even Sabu was holding his own, so, you know, if your partner in this game is holding their own with the CPU, you know, you're pretty much guaranteed to win, because, you know, that means they're poop. Because your partner, I think, is pretty much set to be, like, consistently, like, the lowest kind of AI character, you know. It doesn't matter if it's Triple H, The Rock, whoever. They're going to be wrestling like they're the Blue Mania or something like that. Stupid Taz. Oh, speaking of the Blue Mania, you know, he got a win over him, although he was twice the size of Mysterio. And we got ourselves another triple threat here, and like I mentioned earlier, it is going to be TKO only. So we might be in for the long haul here, folks, 'cause One thing that was really awesome that I will admit that I really like about Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 is that they have like a thing where like you can set any move to have like a blood modifier, I believe. Like I think it could even be like, you know, you just chop someone in the chest and you can set it to, you might be able to set it to where like they can bleed from that. And then I think there's also a TKO thing. I think you have like a set amount of those as to like how many, like, you know, what moves are going to be able to knock out your opponent in your created wrestler moveset. But WrestleMania 2000, I believe No Mercy went a different route in which, you know, the moves you pick it and like they have the set values, right? So, you know, maybe Powerbomb 1, right? Maybe that'll can have the possibility of KOing someone, but Powerbomb 2 might not. So in this game too, like especially WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy, it feels like, you know, most wrestlers, they might have like one move in their arsenal that might actually knock somebody out, and it's usually like their finisher or something like that. And good lord, man, it just kind of, I think it ruins it, right? Because like I feel like in the earlier games, the WCW games, they had a really good they were really good about like having a lot of KO moves. But you know, they just kind of dropped the ball in like the later games with like the WWF titles. Obviously TKO wasn't as big of a factor in the WWF at this point, but it still was just something like, if you're going to have the TKO match modifier, you know, just for the hell of it, add some like TKO moves to like a wrestler's arsenal, you know. But a lot of people say that WrestleMania 2000 like had some of the most unimaginative character movesets in the series, and to a degree, I definitely agree. The Hardy Boys were they were like the worst represented Aki characters I've ever seen in a series. Like they literally, it feels like they are literally created wrestlers in that game. They barely look like the Hardys, in my opinion. There's the issue of, you know, they don't have the twist of fate. They literally have the diamond cutter as their finishers, and they even have like the taunt the DEP does after the fact too. Like it's literally just a diamond cutter, and then like for whatever reason, like Jeff Hardy, he has an animation where he does like a flip against standing opponents, and like all they had to do was just put that flip as like a high flying attack that you could use against downed opponents, right? And they didn't do that. Like they don't have the Swanton Bomb in WrestleMania 2000 either. So like they are just completely inaccurate. Like there's just nothing about them that screams Hardy Boys other than, you know, their very early 1999 Titantron and music. Which, you know, it was kind of cool that, you know, I do like that game is like the only game to have like their Chase Manhattan theme, because I really do like it. But man, oh man, that was just that's by far the worst Hardy Boys appearance I've ever seen. A lot of people, because they did the motion capture, I guess, for Attitude, and a lot of people were wondering, well, you know, if they did the motion capture, why aren't the Hardys in the game? Attitude came out at the time when like they were still like, they weren't on-screen characters really, and if they were, it was like right as Attitude released and stuff like that. So, you know, if we had somehow gotten the Hardys in that game, we probably would have gotten like the late 90s New Generation era where they had like the weird goofy tights and stuff like that with I think, what did they have, tie-dye or something like that? It was like it was definitely a 90-ish kind of color scheme, but it looked, I don't know, it resembled more like 70s or 80s or something to me. They just looked really weird. Had no personality or charm that we eventually would get from them. Definitely were not cool, I can tell you that much. But it's weird to see, like, too, how long the Hardys were in the WWF before they really got that shot at the, you know, as actual on-screen characters. Because I think they were even guys, like, they were jobbers during the New Generation era. Like, I think Jeff Hardy talked about how Razor Ramon kicked the shit out of him in his jobber match, and then he almost quit the business, but then he had, like, a match against the 1-2-3 Kid, and, you know, he got a little bit of a back and forth, and You know, 1, 2, 3 Kid wasn't, you know, he was, obviously he wasn't really like a big guy that had to make himself look, you know, his character look strong and stuff, so he was able to just kind of work with him a lot more, and Jeff Hardy was able to, you know, restore his faith a little bit more in the wrestling business, I guess. And, you know, they were the guys who I think they opened and closed the doors at WrestleMania 10 and stuff like that, so I mean, there was a lot of, it definitely took them, like, I think 5 years, I want to say, before they became on-screen characters officially. But, you know, that's what it is. I think that's what the wrestling business used to be, especially. And nowadays, I think the Attitude Era kind of changed that with guys like Kurt Angle, and then eventually we got Brock Lesnar and, you know, stuff like that, where people didn't always necessarily have to pay their dues. That was actually pretty sick. I don't know how that happened, but I'm not complaining. That was awesome. Oof, that was a close one. Boy, you don't get to see those ones often. I gotta say too, I noticed this in when I was doing the evolution of my series videos and stuff like that. You know, I get it, shameless plug, but WrestleMania 2000 added a lot of like different like new types of situations for moves, and then added like no moves for them. Right, the dumbest thing I will never understand to this day, and maybe it was a Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 thing, or maybe it was something in the early games that I just never noticed, like maybe one character had it. But WrestleMania 2000 was the game that started it, where wrestlers would have finishers on the apron, and I'm not talking about like the ones where your character's on the apron, because they actually added a few moves for that, despite, you know, most players not ever going to be able to use them. I think The Undertaker in WrestleMania 2000 is the only one. I think he has either a chokeslam or a power bomb to the outside, which is pretty cool. But like if you're grappling someone, you know, while they're on the apron, there's two moves. There's the club to the chest, which is commonly, you know, the weak grapple variation, and then the strong grapple move is the suplex to the inside. WrestleMania 2000 added a finisher option to that. And there's no moves you can do with it. It's just those two same moves. And the annoying part is that's more common than like if you were to grapple people on the apron, especially the AI. If you want to grapple the AI on the apron, you got to set it up, like when they're dizzy and stuff. And I don't know, and it sucks because like it was a decent idea, and once again, maybe they added moves in Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 and I just didn't realize it, but you know, there are a few moves you can do. You know, you could have had like a suplex, you know, to the inside, but instead of like dropping them behind you, you just drop their stomach on the rope. You know, that would have been pretty cool. You could have had like a T-bone suplex to the inside or something like that. Or maybe like a Tazplex or something like that to the inside. That would have been pretty cool. Maybe you could have had some form of DDT or something like that to the inside. I know they couldn't do the Randy Orton DDT to the inside because he hadn't tried that yet. You know, that wasn't until 2008. But I'm just spitballing ideas here, you know. Or they could have had, you know, Undertaker or Kane with a choke slam to the inside from, you know, your character to the apron and stuff like that. I mean, that would have been pretty sick. So it's definitely not that they couldn't have had some options. And then once again, for back grapples at the turnbuckle, for whatever reason, you know, I think they have, once again, they have like 4 moves. Actually, I think they have 3 moves, and one of them is just completely missing in the game, which I think they did bring these into Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, and I think most of them returned to No Mercy. But WrestleMania 2000, like the week, they have the club to the... We won that one. Perfect end. But they have like the club to the back of the head, and then they have the back suplex, and then I think they have a German suplex off the top rope. But they could have had so many more. But thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to me, Bean O'Mac. Next Saturday will be the month of March in Extreme Road Tour. Tomorrow's video features the evolution of the Aki series from World Tour straight to No Mercy. Every Sunday I do comparison videos, evolution of the series, personal rankings, and more one-off videos. If you want to see a non-Aki Wrestling game playthrough this Wednesday, I continue my journey through the territories with Hulk Hogan and Legends of Wrestling for the PlayStation 2. And if you want non-wrestling playthroughs, subscribe to my Let's Play channel Bean O Max, which has a link in the description below, along with all other links and codes featured in this video, including previous episodes. Above all else though, please remember to have a nice day.